fascinating, interesting debate show is live in the huddle.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls from around the world, welcome back to another episode of In the Huddle, EP 27. I mean, bro, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, when you think about how I had COVID for the last 2 weeks, as we explained on the earlier episode, we actually working overtime today. My first day back, and I'm working overtime. We working overtime. Zay, we was on the show. Salute to Zach. And that was a good episode, bro. I really thought the topics was good. I thought the debates was good. Sometimes it probably ran a little longer, like the Brady topic and stuff like that. But it's all fun when you have dialogue and you always get to, record and debate with your friends and your colleagues and all that good stuff. So, I'm happy to be here on this show. I'm happy to be feeling better, bro. I actually feel better today. Speaking of getting knocked out because of COVID, somebody, I won't say got knocked out, but somebody lost. Oh, actually, Usman got knocked out. Okay, in the UFC. Salute to the UFC. Usman, man. Oh, man. Zay, what a fight right there, bro. I mean, what a fight. That caught me off guard, bro. But that's why you play. That's why you fight 12 rounds, right? In boxing and in 5 rounds in UFC. That's why you fight all 5 rounds, to make sure that you don't get caught lacking like that. Usman is still asleep, bro. Episode 270, and I want to stay in the combat universe here, and I want to go into boxing. We talk a lot of boxing on this show for good reason. Boxing is one of those sports that we love dearly to watch, and man, what a fight this past weekend as Oleksandr Uysk wins the split decision over Anthony Joshua to attain 3 heavyweight titles. Zay, when you saw this fight, we're going to get to the theatrics in a little bit, but just so far, what you seen in this fight, Oleksandr Usyk, he's the champ once again. Your initial thoughts?
Initially, I just thought that the more tactical fighter won. I think you can't teach tactician. You can't teach knowing the ring, knowing how to actually box. And I think that's what was the outcome of this fight. I'll just call it battle. I don't know why. Like we're in the Roman age of this battle. But after this fight, I think Usyk has shown that he is the more superior tactical fighter than Anthony Joshua. And I think that is what we're seeing. And what we saw, I think Anthony Joshua was for the glamour, for the lights. They wanted him to be the face of boxing. He's a handsome dude. He's a pretty face in boxing. So that's what they wanted. They wanted a pretty face in boxing. They wanted to be the next Floyd Mayweather, somebody who could be the face. You can put all over the billboards, all over towns. You can put them in children's place. You can put them in cookies. You can put them everywhere along the world, and everyone will have like him because he has a likable face. And that's not the case. You have to know how to box. You can't play boxing. It has to be a lifestyle. You have to be in the ring and know how to fight against superior fighters. And he's just not that guy. And I think that's something that we've seen, against Usyk. And I think it would have been exposed if he would have fought Fury. Even worse, I think Fury would have knocked him out because it would have been a more dangerous fight for Joshua if that fight would have occurred when it was supposed to. I don't want to get too much into the fight just yet because I want you to get started off to get the first hits in, technically the first round off. So just in totality, the outcome, I think the better tactical fighter won. And I think we're gonna break it down. How the fight went on, what we saw.
I mean, look, bro. Where do I start? I just don't know why Anthony Joshua, right? Because the real question, the imaginary question that I literally botched to put on the teleprompter here is, should we be impressed with Joshua despite the loss in his second go round? And did he fight a better fight this round or this fight against Usyk? And to answer that imaginary question, I would say I'm still disappointed. I know a lot of people, is giving Joshua his jurisdiction due as far as how he fought this time around the fight. The adjustments that he made, which was clear. I mean, did he fight better than the last fight? Of course. I think that's obvious, right? Did he did some things defensively and offensively better? Yeah. Did he try to impose his will a little bit more? Sort of, going to the body a little bit more. But overall, he didn't do what he needed to do. If you're Anthony Joshua, why are you boxing, bro? Why are you outboxing or trying to outbox a master boxer? That does not make sense to me, right? In both fights, this dude is trying to outbox Usyk. It's impossible. You cannot outbox Usyk. My man's is 6'6", look like a Greek god, as you said. You know what I'm saying? Guy, dude got jeans, bro. I thought he didn't use his size, against Usyk. And, when you got God-gifted abilities, you got to be able to use them. And sometimes those supposed to be an advantage. The one thing about Fury, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about Fury, because as it stands right now, the super fight is with Fury and Usyk. One thing about Fury, he knows how to use his size. He did so against Wilder, every bit of his size. He knows how to use it. And sometimes I look at Fury, and not to take anything away from his skills, he's a skillful fighter, but I'm just like, because he knows how to use his physical attributes so much is why he's really that good. Like, literally. AJ should have done the same thing by being more rugged and aggressive. He had Usyk hurt in the 8th and 9th rounds, and then the championship rounds is how you win the fight and keep your belts. And that's where Usyk dominated along with the better portion of the fight. It was a closer fight than the last one, but Usyk won the fight. The judges got it right outside the one blind mice that we always seem to get in a major fight. It was a good fight for Usyk. And I think Joshua could have done a little bit better, even though he did better.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with me. I think Anthony Joshua, he did better in the fight, but it wasn't enough. Yeah, best sometimes is not enough. So he showed that he was able to adjust, able to do things differently than what we're accustomed to seeing Anthony Joshua do. He's able to adjust, was a great thing for a fighter. That's a great thing to look at when a fighter does box. You're seeing if he can make those adjustments to the second go around. And he was able to do it, but it wasn't enough. Like you said, he needs to impose his will, be more physical as a fighter. I understand clean fighting is what we want to see, but sometimes you got to get down and dirty. Sometimes you got to put your weight on him. Sometimes you got to clinch him a little more.
You got an 82-inch reach advantage, bro. Like, what are we doing here?
Correct. And on top of that, volume. You didn't throw enough punches. You only threw 492 punches. Usyk threw 718, or I believe 781. Let me get that number right back up. It was 712. Excuse me, 712.
Damn. For heavyweight too, mind you, this is a heavyweight we talking about here, throwing all those punches. That's the thing about Usyk.
So that's the issue. Like, Joshua's a guy who's not throwing the amount of punches that he needs to throw in order to beat a guy like Usyk. You have to throw volume. You have to throw a lot of punches at him. You have to throw a lot of power punches. You need to get down and dirty. This guy, like I say, is a luxury. When it was Joshua was fighting a lot of guys who weren't real championship contenders, guys who weren't on his level. So now he's fighting people way above his level because he didn't fight guys that were subpar to him. It's on par with him. So I think, it was unfortunately, I'm gonna go back in time. It was a unfortunate event that he never got to fight Wilder when they were needed to fight, because that was somebody he probably needed to fight in order to obtain that next level. You can't put Joshua against these guys who he's better than, and then put him against fighters who are superior to him, guys who actually know how to box, not just have power. He put him against Andy Ruiz, a guy who's known to box, and he beat him right the first time. The second time, Joshua got him out of there. That's cool. So now this time, Usyk.
Ruiz got himself out of there by, partying and all that. Technically,
yeah. So then the second time you got brother Usyk right now, and everyone, no one anticipated Usyk to give Anthony Joshua the problems that we anticipated, that we've seen in these first two fights. So no one anticipated that. We knew Usyk could box. We didn't think he would outbox Joshua like this. He made Joshua look damn near foolish that first fight. The second fight, it wasn't as bad, but it was still bad. 712 punches. He looked like a true champion, the guy who really was the champion from the beginning. He made Joshua look amateur, and Joshua looked hesitant, like he didn't want to throw a punch, he didn't want to get hit, he didn't want to do this, that, and the third. So I think it's unfortunate that we have to see literally Anthony Joshua fall from grace, because at one point in time he was the guy we was calling the face of boxing, or the face of the heavyweights. Him and Wilder, who's going to be the best heavyweight? Then Tyson Fury came out of retirement, took that crown, and now Usyk is over here just holding it down until Tyson Fury decides to come back and box Usyk. It's unfortunate that Joshua lost, because I understand you learn more from your losses, but these are the fights where Joshua's supposed to show what he's really made out of.
I think when you talk about this fight, and one of the biggest stories that got to be is how Usyk went to battle and came back and still, took part in this fight immediately, pretty much after coming back and training, and still won. Like, that's crazy to me, because I don't think that gets the respect enough. Like, granted, the fight just happened. Hello, Lil. Can we allow things to go on and transpire? But I still don't see that being the talk of conversation. Everybody's getting in tune with the antics that happened after the fight, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But this needs to be what's talked about the most. The fact that Oleksandr Usyk went to war, came back. You know how you gotta prepare, like mentally. Forget about physically getting it back in shape. I mean, you're not out of shape, right? But it's about the mental part, having to deal with having a country on your back, knowing what's going on, and to take part in fighting for your country, and having to mentally get in tune with fighting Joshua in the biggest fight of your life. All right. That was very impressive from Usyk, and the fact that he's just so active, for a heavyweight to throw that amount of punches is just crazy to me. And that's why I think he's the best in the world. I think when you have a guy that can adjust and counter what you're doing, like I said, AJ, even though I'm criticizing him for not doing some of the things tactically, I think he should have done, he still improved in this fight. And for every question that AJ presented, Usyk had an answer for it. And that's when you have a good jab and you're able to mix things up. It's like, how do you stop that? Like, sometimes it's the fighter. It's not what you didn't do or what you should have done. It's the fighter. And Usyk, it's the fighter that gave AJ trouble. So I think, I end there. But you did mention a point about Deontay Wilder. That's why you make those fights. Because, I mean, what's worse? Losing to Deontay Wilder in a mega fight, or losing 3 fights, one to Ruiz, and in an upset, one of the biggest upsets of all time, and Usyk twice. You would rather lose to Wilder, even if you get your head on a silver platter, you know what I'm saying, your head taken off in 5 rounds, it's like, it's Deontay Wilder compared to this. And you asked Wilder for $50 million. He gave you that $50 million. Y'all wanted to protect AJ. AJ, fighters do have say. All right, clearly somebody didn't want to fight in that camp. And I just think you lost a lot because of that, because you lost that mega fight, right? $50 million. And at the time, that's the fight we wanted to see. Fury was a myth at that time. And then, you and Fury try to do some funny movements going on. And that got blacked by the arbitration when Wilder needed his contractual rematch clause enforced. And now you lose, and look what happened. So, yeah, I think AJ messed up. He messed up when he turned down Wilder. That was the biggest mistake he made.
There's a lot of stuff that's we could talk about. But this fight, we've seen who the better fighter was, in my opinion. I think Usyk deserved both wins. He worked hard. Especially him coming out of the war from Ukraine to come over and to win in the fashion that he did. I believe he didn't even have a tune-up. He didn't have a tune-up. He just came right in. Immediately just came right in. Practice. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why people not talking about that. But Zay, I want to talk about what everybody's talking about, right? Even though that should be secondary. Everything that happened after the fight. Joshua throws the belt, storms out the ring, came back to the ring, grabbed the mic, got his inner Kanye West on. Zay, a lot of people is talking about that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's a level of etiquette that Anthony Joshua should have had, or people reading in between this? We saw it Wilder, when Wilder didn't want to shake Fury's hand in the 3rd fight, everybody got on Wilder. Do you think the media is being unfair to these fighters that are putting their bodies on the line, or is it like, listen, man, where's the etiquette? Where's the class? Yeah, I think, I think people are reading too much into it. When you talk about a guy Anthony Joshua's class, his stature, he's really hurt after this fight. The guy, he just fought for the belts again and lost. So now it wasn't like before, like he fought and lost and then was able to get the rematch. That was it. That was the rematch. It was done. And I think, he's a little embarrassed walking out. It's tough to face your L's, especially when you're in front of a huge crowd. Gotta walk back. You got reporters all in your face taking camera pictures and stuff. I just feel like, people are looking too much into it. They should have given him a time to really breathe, process. Like I said, Anthony Joshua is a high-class fighter. He's from the heavyweight division where at one point he was the top of the food chain between him and Wilder. And now he has, like I said, fallen down from grace. He's back on earth. He got humbled. So now he has to, kind of rebuild his brand and try to get back into that top of the mountain, that forefront with where Tyson Fury and now Usyk now stand. Now Wilder and Joshua, 2 guys who were at that point, are now looking up at Usyk and Fury, trying to get back, climbing back to that point. So I think people are reading too much into it, though. I understand class. And I think of a lot of different things in that nature. But I feel like those same people, if they would have got punched in their face a couple times and then try to have an interview right after, I don't know if they'll be able to have that class and just regular, oh yeah, let's just have a normal conversation mood.
I mean, look, I agree. To be honest, I agree. I wasn't even mad at Wilder when he didn't shake Fury's hand. I think for me, it's like these fellas done got their head punched out for like the last 12 rounds. You expect somebody to really be normal after that? I mean, you're getting your head bashed in for 12 rounds of boxing, first of all, right? We all know how a lot of these fighters are after boxing. You know, some fights so grueling, right? Thriller, Manila, even the Wilder Fury fight. I don't even know if both fighters will ever be the same after that. I mean, like I said, you know, you take that wear and tear, and like I said, you're getting your head bashed in. So I'm not looking too much into it. You know, I think when you talk about Wilder's situation, I think Wilder got, I don't know, nobody has done more for the heavyweight division in the last decade more than Deontay Wilder. Nobody. And I would challenge anybody who disagree to leave a comment. I'll respond. Nobody. Because when you talk about what Wilder has done, first of all, just re-energizing heavyweight boxing in America, being our American fighter, right? And just making it fun to watch. I mean, hey, I'm all in tune with that fight coming up against Hellenius October 15th. Best believe I'll be watching that. Wilder, when with these knockouts, brought heavyweight boxing back to life. He was the guy. He brought Luis Ortiz, you know, an opportunity in which guys was ducking this clown, right? I don't call him a clown, but they was ducking this guy. They didn't want no parts of Luis Ortiz. He fought Luis Ortiz, gave him a paycheck to look out because his daughter had a sickness that Wilder were, you know, sort of like Wilder's situation with his daughter. And he did it twice. Like, all right, it's one thing to do it once. You do it twice. The guy almost knocked you out the first one, right? And you do it again. Okay, cool. Fury was a myth. 2 years out of the sport of boxing, 2-0 fights against like overhead cable guys. The cable guy that came to my house the other day fights against those guys, right? And Fury needed the opportunity. It was all AJ and Wilder. Wilder took AJ, actually took Fury, motivated Fury to get back into boxing and gave him an opportunity. And you don't even have the decency to honor your contractual rematch clause because you're trying to get a big mega fight with AJ. So when people say, oh, why didn't he shake his hand after the fight? Wilder already done good deeds that got disrespected and still getting disrespected to this day. Literally. So, yeah, I'm not looking into these antics anymore. I just know I want to see Fury and Usyk. That's the next fight to be made. And honestly, AJ and Wilder. I don't care how much losses. I don't care if AJ lose the next fight, the next 5, and Wilder lose the next 5. I want to see Wilder and AJ. Clear. Still think that's a good fight to be made.
Hey man, I would love to see that fight. Fury and Usyk, Wilder, Joshua. Hey, throw in Errol Spence Crawford. throw in all of them. I would love to see all those fights. Throw in Javante and Garcia. Put them all on the same card. But listen, I definitely want to see AJ and Wilder. I think that was a fight that the fans need to see. Not only as a fight that they both need to really just bury the hatchet on who would win in a fight, but also the fans will love to see it. I think that's still a high key fight, a high caliber fight, a high profile fight, something that'll sell tickets. Even without, they could be a main card. They don't have to be for the belts. It could be a main card between those two. You could fill a card between a Wilder and AJ. And I think, like I said, it would be a disservice if it wasn't a fight like that. I think that's something that needs to happen. I think if you want to determine who's the next number one contender, it's between AJ and Wilder. I don't think Ortiz is up there. I don't think Andy Ruiz is up there. And there's another heavyweight I'm missing. I just don't think there's no one outside of AJ and Wilder, to be honest.
Luis Ortiz. I mean, you got a couple dudes out there in the heavyweight division and in boxing in general. And salute to Oleksandr Uysk for the victory. Class act at its finest. My last little comment that I want to make. It was very hilarious when that whole fiasco was going on, or the antics that was going on after the fight. And Usyk was like, yo, give me my flag, bro. Because AJ was making a fool out of, the country, kind of. He had the flag on while he was doing what he was doing. Usyk was like, just give me my flag. Just give me it. Like, I thought that was funny. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It ain't going to be funny. It's going to be some wars out here in boxing. We got a lot of upcoming fights that are going down. You know, Wilder, we talked about him, his comeback fight against Hellenius, right? You got the other heavyweight fight, the big one coming up, you know, Ruiz and Luis Ortiz. I'm looking forward to that fight because of they styles, right? Cuban, Mexican going at it. Sign me up. A lot of fights. Haney and Cambuso's rematch, even though I don't care about that fight. Last fight was boring, put me to sleep. I'm not even going to watch that. It's on a Sunday too. Football's going to be on. Negative, but it's still happening. And hopefully we get the fight that we trying to see. Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. I mean, my gosh. Who's pricing themselves out? I guess it's Crawford, right? He's pricing himself out. Sign the contract, bro. I hope we see these fights, Zay. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. I'm pretty much done. It's a wrap. I got to get up out of here. Peace.